just yet.
Woohoo! USA! USA!
We have an action-packed hour for you 6 p.m. drivers.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Matt Skraby wraps up a full day of live and local sports talk.
And that is the whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show, the first of the week. I'll get into my schedule here in just a little bit, but we're only going to have 2 Skraby shows this week, and I'm going to tell you why in just a second. But if you were listening to Gwen and Chris, you know there was a little bit of controversy. There was some love. There was some hatred. We had it all today on Gwen and Chris, so please go back and listen to the podcast. If you missed it, just go to Gwen and Chris on the Odyssey app or go to 973thefansd.com. Go to the podcast section and click on Gwen and Chris because all of it will be up there for you shortly. I am happy to be back. The 3-day weekend was great for me. I told everyone on Friday I was looking forward to it because it's been kind of a grind as of late, but this was like the weekend of doing nothing for me. So I am feeling a lot better about the week ahead. And I'm feeling a lot better about the Padres season ahead, working the Padres season ahead. Well, we'll get into the Padres here as we go along, but we're going to do the news of the day in a second. We're also going to talk more about Anthony Rendon comments and Mike Trout's comments. I'll play Mike Trout's comments, and then we'll have our daily gripe at the end of the show. But if you missed it, Chris's Fantabulous Sports Game Show is something we do take very, very, very seriously on this show, mainly because I can't win, and it's kind of annoying because Tony always wins, always wins, and I don't understand it. I guess I do understand it because he, is a sports guy, so he remembers a lot of sports, especially when it's a baseball thing. But today I felt like there was grounds for an appeal, and I made my appeal. So we're gonna have to wait back and see if the powers that be will strip Tony of his win, because the category was the players in baseball that are making over $30 million a year on average for their contracts. And Chris had a different list. He said Manny Machado was not on that list. And I'm not blaming Chris. I'm just feeling like there was a little bit of weird language mumbo jumbo that got me off track. Because I would have said Steven Strasburg. I would have said Manny Machado. I would have said those guys. But I took the L. And everybody's giving me a hard time about it because they thought I should know this stuff, being that I do talk about Spot Track all the time and different baseball contracts. So, yeah. I'm not going to give this up. Not going to give it up at all. Let's go to the chat and see who's all going on or who's all in there. Thank you to everybody for watching. We got Easy Money. We got Jax. We got Evan. We got Welsh Fryer all the way from Wales. We got Dan. And Dan says Scrabinators. I know we never officially came up with a name for the people that listen to the Skraby Show, but I think Scrabinators is something that fits. Evan also remembers one of the first things that I remember from this show is talking about a story of, sorry, I'm just reaching for the remote because I remember the Aztecs are starting to play, so I need to get that on TV so that I can update everyone. But one of the first stories of the Skraby Show that I did way back when was Britney Spears, and she was actually someone who got kicked out of a hotel in LA for topless bathing or something like that and bothering people. But no one forgets that story, and I think that's awesome. I think it's great that everybody really remembers me for my Britney Spears getting kicked out of a hotel conversation, which is fine. I'm fine with that. The Aztecs game has not started yet. They are in Logan, Utah at Utah State. So I'll let you know as that game goes along a little bit. It's a big game. As I said in the past couple of weeks, it's a must-win game. All of these are must-win games, but things are going well for the Aztecs basketball team. And I don't necessarily know that I thought it would go 20-6 at this point. Well, because you have Utah State 21-5. Both of them have the same record in the conference, 9-4. So San Diego State back in the rankings, hanging in there, really doing some great things. Like I don't know that we appreciate Brian Dutcher enough in this city, because there are plenty of coaches around the country that are not very good. And on top of that, they're just not likable human beings. But Brian Dutcher is a good coach and he is a likable human being. And I'm glad to see the success that the Aztecs are experiencing right now. Aztecs basketball, just one of the most successful runs here in this city in sports over the last couple of years, and over the last, I don't know, 3, 4, 5. I mean, going back way back when. Anyway, I'm not going to go down the what is it called? Memory road. That's not it. I'm not going to go down the past. I'm just going to stick with that.
It's time to get caught up on the latest with the news of the day.
All right, first news story of the day is going to be something that happened over the weekend. And if you're just getting in your car now from work and you haven't heard any of this audio, I'm going to play a little bit of it for you right now. And then you can go find the rest of it on 97.3 The Fan SD on X. But the person who took over for Peter Seidler after he passed away, Eric Kutsenda, spoke to the media over the weekend. And he was asked a bunch of questions. And a lot of it was about the payroll. And here's what he says are reasonable expectations for payroll in 2024.
Again, we take it year by year, and this year's, still a work in process, I would say. The planning starts with the revenue side and what we can accomplish with the fan base and our sponsor partners and media. And then also what sort of talent we can assemble based on what's available on the market, what trade opportunities are there. So it's, a multivariable equation that's, like I said, still a work in process.
All right, so there you go. Eric Kutsenda talking about a multivariable equation. You could tell that he knows his finance. He knows his financial numbers. He knows all that. You could also tell that maybe it isn't maybe, but it is all new to him speaking to the media. So you're not going to get a lot out of him here. But if I could read between the lines, it's basically what we've been saying for the past 2-3 months. And it's the Padres are going to get under the luxury tax threshold this year, and then they may spend next year. But I really think that the big name players, there's not many left of them out there on the free agent market, but I really think that we're not going to see a Padres player being signed for anything more than $8 million or $7 million. It's just not going to happen. Now, he did say trade opportunities there at the end of the clip. And if there is a trade opportunity that makes the team better, I think they go and they do it. But right now, I think they're pretty set with what they have on the team. Outside of a couple more pieces, maybe a couple more starters, or maybe a starter. Also, you need more outfielders. You only got 2 outfielders right now, Zokar and Fernando Tatis Jr. So there is still work needed to be done. But again, I said this last week. I think I even said it the week before. I cannot believe we're 2 days away from the Padres starting games for 2024. And the roster is not yet looking as it should for opening day. It's a roster, and they're going to have plenty of bodies because they have all these non-roster invitees that are going to play, and a lot of other guys that are going to get a chance during spring training. But kind of stunned that at this point in the year, they're still working with what they got. And we've been talking about the outfield for a very long time. So I guess either during spring training, look for a breakout player, or look for the Padres to trade for someone to shore up the outfield, also get some bench players in. And you know what? I kind of hope that they promote within, because then that would kind of maybe sort of end the questions of, can the Padres develop players? Because if these players become good, then the answer is yes, the Padres can develop players. They haven't, and I know that's been kind of a criticism over the years of the Padres front office, is that they're not really developing anyone for the big leagues. They're actually sending them elsewhere so those teams can, benefit from the development that the Padres have already done. But we'll see. I don't think Eric Kutsenda did a bad job, but I need more information, and I know I'm never going to get it. And that's fine, because I understand why. But it's just I would be the worst person to be a spokesperson for a team, because I would just give up all of the information too easy. And I would just tell everybody the truth. And not that they're lying to us, but they're definitely keeping things away from us, which every single team does. But they would not put me in that chair. All right. Next news story. It's kind of a double news story. First is that Blake Snell, former Padre, as we all know, he has an offer on the table from the Yankees. Bob Nightingale reported that the Yankees still have serious interest in him, but they have not come to an agreement yet. So the offer is on the table. The real news for the Padres, though, would be Hyun-Jin Ryu, who pitched for the Blue Jays the last couple seasons. He has pitched 10 seasons in Major League Baseball. He's reportedly going to return to his native South Korea to play for the Hanwha Eagles of the KBO, with whom he began his professional career. It's a 4-year deal. So this is someone that the Padres were looking into as someone who may be able to take over a rotation spot. It's a name of a guy who has pitched at the major league level for a long time and proven what he can do. But the reason we haven't seen any of that is because Hyun-Jin Ryu is going to be returning to Korea. And there you go. That's it for him. I'm seeing some comments on the chat. Michael says, let the kids play. If he had said that, would you feel better? Yeah, why not? I'm assuming the kids are going to be Padres players. But yeah, why not? I think, I don't know. Maybe I'm expecting too much from Eric Kutsenda at his first press conference in front of the media. Maybe I am. But I think it was an important thing to get out there in front of everyone, and I think it was very important for people to hear from him. So I shouldn't be too hard on him. I really shouldn't. Although I am going to be hard on the roster, because that's ultimately what everybody's being judged on, is the roster, the record, and the success of the team. So I will not go easy on the roster. All right, final story for today, news of the day. It's from the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade, and a pair of adults were charged with murder on today after a mass shooting broke out last week. Dominic Miller and Lindell Mays were arrested and are both facing second-degree murder charges, 2 counts of armed criminal action and unlawful use of a weapon. They are still recovering. Both of them are still in a local hospital recovering from injuries they sustained, and they're being held on $1 million bond. The new charges come days after 2 unidentified juveniles were charged with gun possession and resisting arrest for their alleged roles in the mass shooting. So basically, what this story is saying is that it was a disagreement in the crowd. Someone pulled their gun first and started shooting. And we talked about it on Going to Chris earlier. I just really don't understand the logic or thought process in this at all. And I know I'm not going to, and I know that I probably shouldn't try to, but just to, open fire in a crowd full of innocent people because you had a disagreement with someone. This is what we're doing now. I don't know. It's very sad. It's really sad, actually, because the young woman lost her life and she has 2 kids and people were injured, and now there's a lot of people who are going to live with this for the rest of their life and live with the moments during that day and how scary it was. I can't even imagine. I really can't even imagine. But the people that are responsible for all of this are being dealt with by the justice system, and so I will leave it at that for them. All right. You're listening to Matt Skraby. This is the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan. We're just getting started. I'm going to tell you my schedule for the week when I get back, but right now, 17 minutes, 20 seconds left to go in the first half of the Aztecs and Utah State. Utah State up 6-0. So I'll keep you up to date on that as well. When we get back, Anthony Rendon comments. Is it bad to say I'm not that mad at him? We'll talk about it next on the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan.
Stay up to date with everything going on with the Padres.
Back here. There's my microphone in the Odyssey Palace on 97.3 The Fan. Matt Skraby. If you would like to go and follow me on social media or the station, you can at Matt Skraby or at 97.3 The Fan, SD.com. I got to tell you, watching this Aztecs game here in studio, the Aztecs can't make a shot, which kind of looks like a game a couple weeks ago where I was here in studio watching and it was tough. Oh, it was Colorado State, but they ended up winning that game easily. So I'm not going to judge anything. It's 6-2 Utah State right now with 14:52 to go in the game. Now, if you're not on the chat right now, you should be. Go to YouTube, type in 97.3 The Fan, and go to the live show because I've got some really good additions to the Rendon story here. Anthony Rendon, he plays for the Angels, if you don't know. And we even talked about it on this very show. Anthony Rendon said that he would like to make the season shorter, number of games. And this was maybe a month ago. And what we didn't talk about was that he was kind of taken out of context because it was a matter of fact quote that was being circulated around social media, but it was actually something he said he was joking. He knew he was going to take heat about it. And so he didn't really want to say it, but he did anyway. So here's the one thing about Anthony Rendon that I'm going to say that I don't know everybody's going to be with me with anyway. I don't mind him saying this at all. And I'm going to play the audio in just a second if you haven't heard it. I don't mind him saying this at all because I can't sit here and say, oh, you just gave a stock answer, bro. And then when someone actually gives an answer that they feel like is their truth, then I might, even though I may disagree with it, I can't fault a person for saying what's on their mind, for being honest. So here's Anthony Rendon over the weekend. He was asked by a reporter about baseball, if it's a top priority for him. Here's what he said.
Is it still a top priority for you?
That's never been a top priority for me. This is a job. So I do this to make a living. My faith, my family come first before this job. So if those things come before it, I'm leaving.
Is it a priority?
Oh, it's a priority for sure. This is my job. I'm here. All right.
Do you want to be here?
I don't want to talk to you guys at 7 a.m. or whatever time it is. So
Do you want to like be here playing baseball?
I have answered your question. So why do you keep picking at it?
Oh, yeah, he technically answered it.
So there you go. That's his interaction with a reporter. I'm not exactly sure who the reporter would be here, but Anthony Rendon says that's not his top priority in life. I don't have any issue with that. I don't know that anyone's job, except for if you're the president of the United States or if you're a doctor in an ER or someone that has literally deals with human lives each and every day, then I don't think that everybody's job should be a top priority. When I first stopped drinking, I made my job my top priority. It was the number one. Well, I guess I made my desire to stop drinking my number one priority. But in order to fill that priority or to try and not drink, I worked constantly all the time. Just I think I worked like 60 something days in a row. But I feel like Anthony Rendon is just saying what a lot of these other baseball players think. And he's getting paid a lot of money. And so on the chat, Brandon said it was Sam Blum on the as the reporter, which Sam Blum, he is doing a good job because he's getting information that people want to know. But I also feel like Sam Blum is trying to pick at this. He's trying to poke and prod. He's trying real hard to get Anthony Rendon to say something that might be, I'm not saying that he's looking for a clip per se, but as you heard at the end of that conversation, he said, hey, I've already answered this. Why do you keep poking and prodding on it? He said, oh, you technically answered it. That's not for Sam Blum to actually need to know. He doesn't need to know if baseball is a burning passion inside of Anthony Rendon. That's not something that Anthony Rendon needs to tell anyone. And I think we have to stop crushing professional athletes for being honest. And that's what we're doing here. We're making fun of him. We're talking about him as he's a punchline. And trust me, I am not sitting here standing up for Anthony Rendon, but I think that he does say things that we all think. And I think here's some of the response online and in the chat. Junior says about this: coming from a ball player who isn't earning his contract, it comes off smug and ungrateful. And in that regard, I 100% can understand why you would think that and why you would think he's smug and ungrateful. But I don't think that's what he's saying here. I don't think that at all. I think that he says, yeah, my job's a priority, but it's not my top priority. So I'm not sure where the disconnect is between a lot of people. But if I were to sit here, and I guess I could say basically my job is my top priority in my life, but ultimately it is my sobriety and it is my family and then it is my job. So I don't have a problem with this being said. Michael on the YouTube chat said if he doesn't take his job seriously, he should be able to get fired for cause just like anyone else. Yes and no, because he signed a contract that agrees to pay him a specified amount of money over a specified period of time. He's not an at-will employee. He can't just be fired by the Angels. They can, but they're going to have to pay him. So I understand your argument, Michael, but I also think it's a different circumstance because he is under a deal where he has been promised to be paid a certain amount of money over a certain period of time by the team. So that's for someone who got there. I mean, he got to the big leagues. He earned his big contract by having some great years with the Nationals and winning a World Series with the Nationals. Has he lived up to that contract? No. And I think that's where some may find fault in what he said because his numbers haven't showed that he loves baseball and his health hasn't showed that he prioritizes being healthy for the baseball season. Now, I can't say that for sure, obviously, but those are the things I think that he gets in trouble for. So if this came from someone else, I think we're taking it in a completely different way. If this came from, say, I'm just trying to randomly throw out a guy right now. If this came from Fernando Tatis Jr., just throwing his name out there, I think we wouldn't be I don't think we would be as upset about it. Another comment on the YouTube chat, Trevor says, I work to live, not live to work. And that is very true. And I've never really given it, I guess the more we talk on this show, the more you're going to learn that I have two parts of life. I have before drinking and after drinking. And so once I got to the after drinking part, I was starting to see life in a whole different way. The before drinking me would be very angry at Anthony Rendon and be very trying to make fun of him and say, oh, does this guy even want to play at all? But now that we're here and I'm here, I don't really think that that's I don't really think that Anthony Rendon is committing some cardinal sin. Let me get some more comments because these are actually very good comments and they're coming in at a fast rate. If Trout said it or another Golden Boy, it would go over well. And that's 100% right, Michael. It would go over well because those guys, I mean, even Trout, he struggled with injury through a lot of his career as well. And not many people are talking about how much money he makes and how much he's wasting away in Angels land. Annabelle in the chat says, it's because a large amount of people believe that they are entitled to the time and emotions of public figures. They are placing bizarre expectations on people sometimes. I agree with that because I did it for a very long time. I do it now. I mean, I don't do it in a serious way anymore, but I do it in a way of like Deebo Samuel. He hurt himself in the game against the Packers. He didn't return. And my expectation was, hey, if you're good enough to go for the NFC Championship, you should have returned to that game. And that's a wild and crazy expectation for me because I don't know how badly he was injured. I don't know how much he was hurt in the rest of the season, the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl. But I do think that we put unreasonable expectations on professional athletes. And yes, I do think that your I guess the amount of criticism you take is also a reflection of what job you work in. If these guys didn't want the criticism, if these guys couldn't handle the criticism, if these guys couldn't handle people trashing them because they're saying that they don't think baseball's number one, then you shouldn't be in that business to begin with. I don't really see Anthony Rendon blaming the fans in this particular case. I know that there was an incident last year with a fan, but some of the things that are being projected upon Anthony Rendon, I just don't agree with. Let me okay, here we go. Yvette says, should players give an answer that we all want to hear, or should they tell the truth? As a fan, I understand that it's not a popular answer, but his numbers show that baseball is a priority for him. His numbers do show that, Yvette, but his numbers also show that he's been injured ever since he got his contract from the team, from the Angels. And he, as we know from the Chris's Fantabulous game show earlier today, he was one of the highest paid players in baseball, and he still is a highest paid player in baseball. Now, that's where I can criticize. That's where I can get behind that, because his body of work is going to be judged on ultimately the numbers at the end of the road. And his numbers aren't great over the last few years. And I would say that the Angels probably would want to do that deal over again because of how much money he's getting paid. Welsh Fryer from Wales says, I completely understand that my top priority is family and faith. I fully agree with that. Although if you're a 300 million pound player, you have a large expectancy, 1,000 times higher than some guy on league minimum. That is very true. You are, in a way, with the amount of money you make, you're taking away from some of your teammates, and you're taking away you're taking away from the opportunity of the team as a whole. But I think we might be giving Anthony Rendon a little too much credit here for maybe. And here's another branch off of the conversation of whether or not we're putting unreasonable expectations on pro athletes. Maybe there was not very much thought to these comments at all. Maybe this is just how he feels, and we're putting the weight onto those comments. See, I feel like that's another thing that happens on social media. We put weight to comments and it makes it more serious. It makes it more dramatic. It makes it more sensational. But I just don't know that everybody should be as angry as they are. And Junior has another good point. He is saying that Rendon never threw it in the faces to Anaheim fans. Wait, I'm missing part of the conversation. Scratch that from the record. I'm missing part of the conversation. I was trying to pick it up on the fly, but I guess I didn't do a good job. But in the end, Anthony Rendon is another human being. And I know I kind of gross myself out when I say that, but I'm not that mad at his comments. Now, Mike Trout's comments, on the other hand, I actually could be a little bit frustrated with his comments. And I was going to play him here, but I'll play him when we get back. But Mike Trout, he is going to go down as the best baseball player to waste away on a bad team. I know I just came up with that award right now, but I just gave it out to Mike Trout. So we'll talk about Mike Trout when we get back. I'll also update you on the Aztecs. They have just made a shot. I guess I'm updating you right now. They have tied it up 17-17 with 7:45 left to go in the first half. So you're listening to the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan with Matt Skraby. Back here in about 5 minutes. Matt Skraby back with you here in the Honesty Pals. 97.3 The Fan. I don't even know if it's still raining outside, to be honest. I haven't been outside since like 11 a.m., and that's not a joke. Maybe 11:30. I'll say 11:30. But it was, whenever I see the rain, I used to love the rain. But now that my little guy Lucky loves the rain more than any living thing I've ever met, I cried when the rain happened this morning because I knew the everywhere that he's going to go is going to be muddy now. So I'm hoping that the rain isn't too bad, and I'm hoping that he didn't get too muddy today because that'll be great when I get home to see all the mud that he has created. Anyway, the Aztecs are still tied. Still less than 5 minutes to go in the game, so I will take you all the way up until 7 with some of those scores. But I have a couple things I want to mention here in this segment. My schedule for the rest of the week. So I am only going to be on Gwen and Chris and the Skraby Show today and tomorrow, and then Thursday, Friday, I'm going up to visit my nieces and take care of them for a couple days. So I will not be here on Thursday or Friday. We still will have Gwen and Chris. There will be nobody for Skraby Show from 6 to 7 p.m. So if you are looking forward to hearing me on Thursday and Friday, I'm sorry. I'll be back on Monday and we'll be ready to go. But I am really looking forward to seeing my nieces and taking care of them, because last time, I don't know if anybody remembers this story, but last time I went to go take care of them was my first time really like with my sister and my brother-in-law were out of the country. So it was on Uncle Matt to figure it out. And they were great and we made it through. Everything was fine. But one thing that people thought I was really weird for was taking them to a cemetery. And yes, at face value, it seems very weird to take them to a cemetery. But you know what we were doing? We were at this place called, I think it was Pioneer Park up in Northern California. And it was an old cemetery that had a park, a city park built on the side of it. And so when we were leaving the city park, the youngest one said, "Hey, what's that over there?" And I said, "Oh, it's a cemetery of people that were, passed away a long time ago." And she said, "Let's go look." I said, "You're my type of kid. Let's go. Let's go through the cemetery." So we went through the cemetery. We talked about all the different tombstones and things like that, and all the people that died in the 1800s. And it was a really fun time. So I know that the youngest one is not too far from the tree, because who wouldn't want to go to a cemetery as a kid? It sounds kind of cool. All right, 4 minutes left. San Diego State tied 23-23. So there's my schedule. I will have one more show tomorrow night, and then I will see you all on Monday, or talk to you all on Monday. Here's the other question. We, as a station, I guess, I was not here earlier today, but as a station, I guess, we ordered pizza. It was like a pizza party Tuesday type of thing. So I walked in and there was tons of pizza everywhere, which is great. I love pizza, but I haven't been eating pizza in a really long time. And it almost got me to eat the pizza. I got to say, I needed to leave the room. I really needed to leave the room. But here's the question I have for everyone, because there was 2 pizzas bought and they were massive. They're one of those like manhole times 2 cover size pizzas. Both of them were a Supreme variety. I guess Supreme is pretty much the same. Both of them were Supreme pizzas. And I thought that was kind of strange, because don't you usually have to get cheese for the people that don't like regular pizza toppings? Or don't you have to get pepperoni for some of the people? When you order pizza for a group of people, are you required to order cheese only for some people, or just like pepperoni only? And then you can also order a Supreme pizza for everybody else. But I found it very bold, and I was quite happy that they ordered the Supreme pizza. So if you really need, or if you're going to order pizza, tell me, are you ordering a cheese for someone else? Or what kind of variety are you doing? Or are you ordering just all Supremes? Or are you ordering just all pepperonis? I need to know this, because We got into a conversation in the kitchen today. There is never a dull moment in the radio station. Let me tell you. About the cemetery, Welsh Friar actually asking a separate question. You heading to Peoria? We are not, unfortunately, heading to Peoria this year. It's just not going to work, but we're going to be talking to Padres all season long. Trevor says, I used to party at a cemetery in junior high. That's kind of cool. Dan says, yes, Skraby, order several different types of pizzas. Annabelle says, you cannot only get Supreme. That's criminal. Jacob says, Supreme is the safest. Bet it's all the veg, all the meat. I don't know if it's the safest at all. Oh, Yvette has a really funny joke here. When we pass through a cemetery, I tell people that the cemetery is a very popular cemetery. It's so popular, people are dying to get in. All right, I'll stop with the rim shot jokes today. But that was a good one, Yvette. So it seems like people are saying that you need to order different pizzas. Brandon, Skraby survey. Oh, hashtag Skraby survey. Does pineapple belong on pizza? That is actually a pretty good name. Brandon also says, I also think I came up with a new segment with that name for you. Thank you, Brandon. Does pineapple belong on pizza? I am not going to be mad at it, but it's not something that I'm going to order myself. I'm not going to go get a slice of pineapple pizza or Hawaiian pizza or whatever it is. I don't mind it. If people want it and if it's there, I'll eat it. You know what I think is the best style pizza with pineapple on it? Cold pizza. Straight from the refrigerator. I'm telling you, it's delicious when you get some cold pizza with pineapple on it. It's good. Annabelle says, get the bell peppers off my pizza. I love bell peppers. Also, Dominic says you should only ever have to order cheese if there are children involved. You know what? I kind of agree with that. Cheese is only, I guess, if you have dietary restrictions of other kinds, that's one thing. But cheese is like really, really only a kid thing. You cannot eat cheese pizza as an adult. I'm sorry if you do eat cheese pizza as an adult, but come on. Put something on top of that. Put some sausage, put some olives, put some onions, put some pepperoni, something. But cheese pizza is only for kids. I agree. All right. So we talked about Anthony Rendon. We're talking a lot about the Angels today, but it just so happened that both Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout made some news over the weekend. We still have the daily gripe to go. But to close up Anthony Rendon, the chat is saying that the majority of the chat is saying that a lot of MLB players may prioritize baseball number one, which can be true, but I think that priorities change over the years. And Anthony Rendon probably came in the league with no kids. I don't know this, but he probably came in the league with no kids and no wife. I, again, don't know that. But things change over time, and you start wanting to spend more time with your kids and your family and things like that. Ultimately, Anthony Rendon is going to be remembered as whatever he wants to be remembered by. So if he's okay with being remembered as the guy who said that baseball is his third priority, then that's fine. I don't have any issues with that. I don't know that that's how he wants to be remembered, but I think that's how we're going to remember him now. The last couple of months have not been good for Anthony Rendon in the public relations aspect of life. So ultimately, he's going to be remembered as whatever he wants to be remembered as. All right. Now we go to Mike Trout. Mike Trout he's stuck as an Anaheim Angel, and he signed a contract a couple years ago, maybe more, maybe 3 years ago, that would keep him as an Angel for the rest of his career, basically. Mike Trout was asked over the weekend about the Angels and what he wants to see from the Angels, and this is what he told the media.
For me personally, I'm focused on the season. I'm not worried about what happens or where do I want to get traded or I'm not going to get traded? I'm not worrying about any of that. I'm going out there and play my game. I gotta put a full season together and see what happens. I think the biggest thing right now is I think the easy way out is just ask for a trade. There might be a time, maybe. I really haven't thought about this, but when I signed that contract, I'm loyal. I want to win the championship here, and yeah, that's mainly. I think the overall picture of winning a championship or getting to the playoffs here is bigger satisfaction bailing out and just taking the easy way out. So I think that's been my mindset. Maybe down the road if something's changed, but that's been my mindset ever since the trade speculations, came up. So,
all right. So there's Mike Trout. I two guys on the same team, but tale of two different guys. And Mike Trout is loyal to a fault, I think. And I am more upset with Mike Trout and what he said here than I am with Anthony Rendon and what he said in the last segment. But I want to see Mike Trout play in some playoff games. I want to see Mike Trout play in the World Series. And he is, as I said, he's loyal to a fault because he really has tried to make it work in Anaheim. He has stayed there. He hasn't been an issue. He's missed games, but whenever he's on the field, he's great. And he's great for the Angels. But I don't, in this case, think that you need to be as loyal as you're being, Mike Trout. You are one of the greatest talents in baseball history, and you've played 3 playoff games in your entire career. You've only made the playoffs once in your entire career, and you lost all 3 games. And so when one day, say Mike Trout goes the rest of his career with the Angels and they don't win a World Series, one day we're going to be talking about Mike Trout, the best player to ever play on a terrible team. Or maybe not terrible team, but it just hasn't been there for him with the Angels. And if I'm Mike Trout, really good on you for sticking with it, sticking with the process, being a man of your word, because that's something that we don't really see these days. And I appreciate that. But at this point in time in his career, I think he needs to be looking for playoff wins. I think he needs to be looking for a team that's going to be a lot better than what the Angels are going to be giving him. And they just lost Shohei Ohtani. So how in the world are the Angels going to be able to make up for that? They're not. And so they're going to be lost in mediocrity for a little bit and maybe even for the rest of Mike Trout's career. And again, I appreciate Mike Trout for being loyal. I really do, because that's a stand-up thing, especially when you're talking about someone's legacy and career. But in this case, I wouldn't blame Mike Trout for asking for a trade. And I would guess that Angels fans are the same. I think Angels fans want to see Mike Trout go on and do great things. And he's tried to make it work with the team, but it's just not. It's just not. Anthony says, hey, we don't get mad at thinking about Tony Gwynn staying SD. Maybe he just doesn't want to leave. That could be true. Mike Trout's a not a West Coast guy. He's an East Coast guy. And that is true. He may not want to leave. And if that's the case, then I will do what I said for Anthony Rendon. If that's how he feels, then that's how he feels. And we really shouldn't question him on it. But I do for this reason, because I really think that he has so much more to give to the history of baseball than what he's currently doing. And that's wasting away in Anaheim. But again, a tale of 2 very, very different players. And again, I'm not trying to say that Anthony Rendon is, not loyal, because I guess he is loyal because he's sticking with his team and all that. But you have one guy who's considered one of the best baseball talents of all time, and you have one guy who, had a great season, won a World Series, and then got paid. And the guy who's one of the best baseball talents of all time is trying to stick with his team and trying to win a championship for the fan base. So Mike Trout, I say good on you.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
I'm seeing a comment that it just went. Trout to SD, make it happen. I don't know that's going to happen. But where's that comment? Oh my gosh. No, I'm just making up things at this point. Is Mike Trout the baseball equivalent of pre-Rams Matthew Stafford? Possibly. But Matthew Stafford actually played a bunch of games. Mike Trout has had that injury bug. All right. Daily Gripe. Got to get this in. So I have been attached in this tweet or X post from earlier, and it was about something with the Padres. And I don't really need to let everybody know what it was about, but here's my daily gripe. Just because this city is not Boston or New York or Chicago or any of those big cities with aggressive sports media doesn't mean that we have a terrible media town here in San Diego. I don't know what some of these people want us to do. I don't know why they want us to go and make bad relationship with players. San Diego's a different place to begin with. And so us as the media going in and saying and trying to pin a player down on a certain thing, number one, that does not work because a player is not going to give you anything here in San Diego. And number two, that's a real quick way for me to get a talking to by the bosses. I don't necessarily think that we need to be rude to players. We need to be, we need to say mean things to players. But it doesn't mean we're a soft media sports town. I don't think that's the truth. We can deal with things in a different way. But some of the people that are suggesting that we're not asking enough or doing enough, I really don't know what you want us to do. I'm not going to go in there and just completely say terrible things to a human just so I can make Twitter happy. All right, there's my daily gripe. Thanks to everybody for being with me tonight. Appreciate you all. I will talk to you tomorrow, starting at 2 p.m. with Gwen and Chris on 97.3 The Fan. Have a good night.
Padres, Dodgers.
0-2. Swing and a miss.
Cactus League Baseball on The Fan. Our coverage begins Thursday at noon. The Padres play here on 97.3 The Fan.
Mark Drumheller here to help you beat the books with BetQ.